So I want to make this blog today because I think it's time that I want to speak out about this issue regarding the migration. Well, let me just start that you know, I've always been respectful with both sides with migration and other political issues, but ever since Trump's presidency, it kind of changed everything. So I want to discuss about the migration laws in other Western states plus in the U.S. Well, first of all, this is very insubordinate about what's happening with Trump dividing families, Trump dividing parents from children who have status of American citizenship. It's awful too, and what I also find awful of how he's trying to divide the families also at the detention centers on the of people flowing in from other countries. So I want to address about also regarding about America's evil history of what they've done, because this is no surprise of how migrants are being treated. It also goes along with the racist history and all the other evil histories that America has done with indigenous Native Americans. So it's been done during the time of slavery. It's been done with the Native Americans too. It's also been done when the white America rounded up and did an internment with Japanese and also other Asians too. Well, so here are these white people, conservative, they're all talking about national security, protection and the border. You're not forgetting that you white people don't know that you stole that land from the Mexican territory, and that you people forget that America is not white. America is originally not white. That was founded by whites. That's one thing you forget, white America. That it's not your country, it's not your native place, and that you forget that you settled from your European ancestors. And the fact that America is full of equality place, and Trump changed all that. And thanks a lot to the Trump supporters. It is an extreme disease of what they're doing. And not to mention the fact that there should be laws that have to be changed. And I think it's really now time to change laws. When I've read the fact that back in the late 90s, when Bill Clinton was the president, all these enforcement against illegal migrants were enforced. I believe it's really now to change all that. And Obama did a lot to change all that too. And that's why I give him respect for that, especially when Bush, when he enforced these migration laws of path to American citizenship to those who want to become American citizens. And I give them grant for that. So let me also go with the other countries like Australia and Canada. Very unique migration laws, and they seem to have their own uniqueness with migrants. And I respect them for that. I really admire them for that. And with their skilled workers migration and their express highway, etc., and they have to speak English and French if it's Canadian. So I think that with all this raging war against migrants in the United States, I think it's time for other Western countries to come together and start changing their migrant laws. Example, in Canada, temporary foreign workers the Canadian Parliament can just change it to their uh, permanent migrant workers. They can change. It's easy for them to change that. So even Australia too, I think needs to have some considerations. Especially Canada has to have considerations. If it's the choice of the migrants, no matter coming from Africa, Asian, or Central and South American region, then they should be accepted. It doesn't matter where, if you're a professional or labor, they all contribute to Canada's economy. They all contribute to Australia's economy. So I respect the fact that they need to protect the shores in Australia, but they don't have to really do the harmful way of treating asylum seekers and refugees. So my tip is that these are not people who want to violate the laws. They want to seek safety, and I'm sure they want to obey the laws, and they want to become citizens of, Canada and Australia. I have friends who want to go to Canada and Australia, not to the United States, because they feel that they are better there with how civil they are than in the United States, especially with the racial injustice and the income inequality. And I admire Canada and Australia so much with their social welfare and their social security, and being that insurances are free. So, I've seen a video of a member of a parliament in Canada, her name is Jenny Kwan, of her scolding Prime Minister Trudeau in regards of the Safe Third Country Agreement. Well, I give her grant that she stood up to Trudeau, because I think that Trudeau is a fake and a fraud. That Prime Minister Trudeau is a hypocrite to say that when Donald Trump, he banned, this Muslim country, the travel ban. He said that refugees from these countries are welcome. But when Trump was planning to suspend the temporary protection status of Salvadorians and Haitians, Trudeau was quick into condemning them, saying, "You're not welcome in Canada. Go back." And how dare you, Trudeau, to say stuff like that about these people, when you said that Canada is a place of all diversity, all races, all faiths. When you've said some shit like that. And not to mention with the fact that if you want to talk about diversity, welcome people of all places. Welcome people of all faiths. Whether they're laborers, low-skilled, high-skilled, and professionals. And how dare Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull of Australia to do some shit of these violations, especially with international law, of regarding the treatment of refugees and asylum seekers. Well, if you don't want that, accept them. You don't have a choice. I'm sure they don't want to violate the law. Well, they have no choice but to enter illegally. You know why people enter the United States illegally? Because they have no choice how to enter legally. So accept that. You people who don't like the fact that, these people, they're crossing the border illegally, you're trying to violate the law. Well, hello? There's no easy pathway to enter the United States legally for these people. That's why they come in to cross the border, because they have no choice. They don't have a choice. They have a choice of whether they want to go to the United States or not. But to enter illegally or legally, they have no options. So I also like the immigration minister of Canada, Ahmed Hussein, who was a refugee from Somalia. But to say some stuff and go along with Trudeau to condemn asylum seekers, coming straight from the United States border, northern border to Canada, they're Latin American or Caribbean, to say shit like that. Well, I respect the fact that not everybody gets to go to Australia, not everybody gets to go to Canada, but I think it's time that we need to call for considerations for that we should consider them, we should treat them with decency with this Trump migration issue thing. And I like Europe too. I like Europe's migration laws, and they're really good. And I've read some issues regarding about far-right politicians in Europe, and they don't know that they're being used for a device to cripple down Europe. But I think it's time for, I understand Australia and their far right, because Austria has a long evil history, especially with the Hitler thing. So I think that I thank Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, and France for their respect and their treat towards refugees. And it's in the Bible that talks about how to treat well foreigners and people trying to escape crisis. And that's where in that particular verse in the Bible that talks about sanctuary cities. And that's why there are sanctuary cities now that give safe passage to these people who have done nothing wrong and who have been wrongfully accused. So I really think it's time for Canadian organizations, American organizations, Australian organizations, European organizations, and Amnesty International to stand up against this insubordinacy and insolence of the far rights and anti-migration, anti-refugee, and all this bad things. So, I really stand up to people who are facing this human rights, who are addressing this human rights issues. So I grant them for that. So my advice is that we should welcome these people no matter what. And most of these people who escape trying to seek asylum in these countries are not criminals. They're not terrorists. They're not robbers. They're not murderers. They're not rapists. These are people who want to seek a better life in these countries. Though not everybody gets to go. And I respect that. But consider them. Treat them with decency. Treat them as you treat your fellows. And I hope things will get better after Trump. And things will get real better after Trump. It's like how times during the Obama administration. And I am really ashamed of these Christians who support Trump. They should answer to God for this insubordinance. And this is just what I have to say, because I think I'm tired of just being silent about this. So this is my video for today.